The Baltic Sea is a beautiful sea. The region is home to more than 85 million people, and 15 million live right along the coast. But for centuries, commercial fishing has severely impacted the marine environment. Lost and abandoned fishing gear has become an urgent problem. It's referred to as derelict fishing gear, but the phenomenon is more commonly referred to as ghost nets, invisible, silent killers in our oceans.
A ghost net is a net or a piece of fishing equipment that has been lost at sea. It can sit there for tens and maybe even hundreds of years. And if it's stretched out in the water, it will be a trap for all kinds of animals.
The problem is that they are lost, so no one is maintaining them. They are staying there alone and they are catching fish year after year.
It's not only a threat to the fish stock, also marine mammals and birds are entangled in fishing nets.
We have actually found nets older than 30 years and they are still catching fish, so we are talking about a serious problem.
Many fishermen will at some point lose their gear at sea, but those lost nets keep doing what they were designed for, trapping and killing fish. Sometimes even seabirds and marine mammals. And while fish, birds, and marine mammals are at risk out at sea, they can also get trapped and killed in ghost nets that are stuck on shipwrecks, which make a common artificial habitat.
Problemet med spökgarn är att stå garnen uppifrån botten, som garnen gör när du sätter ut dem när de är nya färska. När garnen har blivit fulla av fisk och det är ben i dem, så står de och skakar sig, så ramlar benen av och så lyfter de igen. Och så fångar en ny fisk till de sjunker ut.
Only in the Polish economic zone, it's around 800 tons of derelict fishing gear, so-called ghost nets, staying on the seabed.
Apart from the effects on fish and marine mammals, ghost nets also pollute our seas on a large scale. Every year, between 4 and 13 million metric tons of plastic enter our oceans, adding to the estimated 150 million metric tons that are already there.
Plastic nets survive for hundreds of years in the marine environment. They're not exposed to UV radiation from the sun. They're not even exposed to waves very much when they're at the seafloor.
They break down into microparticles of plastic, which can be absorbed by marine organisms.
Even though bags and PET bottles and other plastic waste is regarded as the primary enemy, a large part of plastic pollution comes from ghost nets. Recent studies estimate that lost fishing gear makes up about a third of all the plastic materials found in our open oceans.
If nothing will be done with the issue of derelict fishing gear, we can expect that the accumulation of those microparticles of plastic will increase.
So why are fishing gears lost is the foremost question.
MARELITT Baltic is an EU-funded project with participation from Sweden, Estonia, Poland, and Germany, and with the aim not to clean the Baltic Sea, but to find a sustainable solution to the ghost net problem for today and for the future.
MARELITT Baltic is a project focusing on all problems caused by derelict fishing gear.
How to locate the nets, how to retrieve the nets, how to bring them ashore.
And can we find a way to put these nets into the existing waste management system and preferably even into the recycling system?
With a comprehensive approach covering many aspects of the problem, like mapping, retrieval, recycling, and prevention of ghost nets, the project has created new areas of expertise. It has resulted in an action plan called the Baltic Sea Blueprint. That plan can guide organizations and governments towards actionable steps for fighting ghost nets all over the world.
Ghost nets problem is a pan-Baltic problem. It's not only in Poland or Sweden, Germany or Estonia, but it's actually everywhere where the fishing activities are present.
We have actually divided the responsibility by having institutions and countries taking care of certain parts of the project.
By gathering data from past fishing activity and comparing it with results from retrieval operations in randomized sample areas, the blueprint can predict where ghost nets are likely to be located.
We have developed a methodology where we've been looking at fishing patterns, and together with fishermen we have defined areas where we expect to find ghost nets.
All data is entered into a digital map displaying hotspots of past fishing activity and already conducted search and retrieval areas.
The information from fishermen is so valuable for us in MARELITT Baltic because they have this practical knowledge. So they know exactly what are the conditions at sea, why they lose nets, and where they lose nets.
When a ghost net is located, the area will be examined and compared to an environmental impact assessment study to establish if there are any shipwrecks or cultural heritage objects nearby, and to consider if the ecological environment might be too sensitive for a dragging operation. If the environment is robust enough, the seabed can be swept in a dragging operation, removing the ghost nets from the seabed.
En dragg typ som den, och beroende på vädret så får man reglera tyngden så man absolut har den på botten hela tiden så den inte lyfter ju, för då kan du ju missa någonting ju. Sen kör man ut en lång lina bak efter båten och då får man reglera längden också med tanke på hur strömt det är och hur dåligt väder det är. Och sen så får man hålla på så ända till man känner att man får någonting.
If the ghost net is stuck on a wreck or located in a sensitive marine environment, the Baltic Sea Blueprint instead calls for a diver to be sent to the site to ensure a secure removal of the ghost net without damaging either the environment or the culturally significant site.
One of the big challenges was to find the nets in the first place. Every area and every country and every coast is different.
Baltic Sea has very many faces. The western coast is rocky with a lot of steeps, whereas the eastern coastline is more sandy, more flat, smooth. And this makes also, of course, the problem very diversified.
The Baltic Sea is the youngest sea on our planet, with a delicate mix of saltwater from the northeast Atlantic and freshwater from surrounding rivers. It's one of the largest bodies of brackish water in the world. This makes it a highly sensitive marine ecosystem, giving rise to a unique flora and fauna.
It's a sea that has only one inlet from the ocean, and there are not very many species that can deal with both sweet water and salt water.
It's very sensitive for anthropogenic pressure, and the water exchange with the ocean is very difficult due to the narrow Danish straits. All pollution, including marine litter that is coming into the Baltic, stays there for many, many years.
The retrieval operations have been carried out with the purpose of developing a methodology and has resulted in increased knowledge about ghost nets in the Baltic Sea.
Mycket plast, gamla pivarnät, spettnät. Skulle tippa på någonstans 10-20 år gamla, 20 år gamla kanske. Vi har fått upp 8 sådana garnsäckar nu, jag och Bengt. Så totalt sett meter vet jag inte, men jag skulle tippa på en 6-8 tusen meter har vi fått upp totalt här nu.
We have collected around 10 tons of lost nets in the first year of the operations at sea. Actually, in the first 2 years of the MARELITT Baltic project.
The retrieved nets are often heavily contaminated with sediments and biological material, and so would require manual handling to separate all the material for recycling purposes.
When we retrieve the nets, we take out the toxic waste from the marine ecosystem, but then we don't want to dump them into the hazardous waste facility on land, because then we take them out from one environment and put them in another environment.
You can often find products which are said to be made of so-called ghost nets. Sadly, that's often far from the truth. Currently, waste management companies are not able to fully recycle contaminated fishing gear. However, used nets and other end-of-life fishing gear free from contamination can often be recycled and made into plastic pellets, which are ready for new products.
When it comes to recycling, we cannot solve all those problems during the project, but we can at least show what are the bottlenecks.
We can process them only in a thermal way so that we extract the energy from the plastics and that we regain the lead from the zinc lines and that we can put that into metal recycling instead of putting that into hazardous waste.
To use even a small fraction of old fishing gear, it's a good thing. At least we have started somewhere.
Cleaning the sea from ghost nets is only one aspect of the solution. The project has also looked forward on how to best prevent fishing gear from being lost in the future.
Problem can divide it into two problems. There's a historic problem, meaning the nets that have already been lost, and then there's the future dimension, meaning the nets that will be lost if they are lost. And we are trying to find ways to minimize the amount of net that will be lost in the future.
The Baltic Sea Blueprint calls for the use of modern technology as a cornerstone in the actions to limit and mitigate the ghost net problem for future generations. If the location of lost fishing gear is marked with GPS, then using seabed imaging like side-scan sonars could improve detection, making it easier to complete a retrieval operation. Other types of technology, like radio frequency identification tags, can also help find lost gear at sea and ensure its return to the right owner.
MARELITT Baltic is a great approach to address the Baltic Sea ecosystem. But we definitely do not want to stop there, because we know that while nets have been lost in the past here, they are still lost in many areas of the world.
Hopefully, our methods that we are developing within MARELITT Baltic project could be a blueprint for other seas as well.
The way that we have built up the methodology gives a chance for any region actually to use it. But you can really identify the key parameters in our methodology, and you can adjust that to the region where you are working.
Maybe the most important thing is that we have started a regional cooperation. Hopefully all the countries around the Baltic Sea are going to join the same initiative. Derelict fishing gear doesn't know borders.
I also hope that the solution and the recommendations that we will develop within MARELITT Baltic will be put in practice by politicians. We are preparing some kind of solution, but it's up to politicians of the different Baltic Sea countries and the EU to put it in practice and to make it work, really.
We set out to find a solution and to make a change, and we found it in the Baltic Sea Blueprint. The Baltic Sea is a diverse body of water. Its seabed, coasts, and marine ecology mirror many of the world's oceans. Based on our newfound discoveries, we created an action plan ready to use. Finally, we have a chance to end the silent killers in our oceans.